This is Battlefield 1. We're on Xbox Series X. The game is providing some interesting details. We have HDR support. It has a dynamic 4K resolution, so we should actually be getting a native 4K resolution across the experience. And there is also 60 FPS, so it's really quite smooth. So this is the opening kind of segment of the game. It's kind of great because it's really gritty and intense and focused. So the game is split between the war stories, which is the campaign, telling different sort of standalone narratives, and then the multiplayer, which is where the real action is at. So this was interesting because this entry in the Battlefield series took us back to a historic point and kind of perhaps a series of wars that are often neglected when it comes to games. It's usually just all World War II. But yeah, they definitely did have some interesting tales to tell, whether that was in the campaign aspect or the multiplayer. So we're obviously, again, starting with the campaign, and then we'll be showing off a little bit of what quite a bit of what the multiplayer has to offer, because that kind of is the core aspect of what this series is all about. It's just kind of an interesting entry, because this is supposed to showcase how brutal combat was. You're not even expected to particularly live in this segment, and I think that's kind of interesting, the trench warfare, the conflict. I mean, visually it looks absolutely fantastic, at least I think so. Super, super gritty. Oh jeez, there's a lot of pistols down there. But yeah, it's just kind of really gripping, epic things. There's like another one where there's like a tank, and they do little different things with each of the war stories, which I think is kind of, enticing for telling different tales. I do like more, comprehensive, expansive narratives, but I can say that it was somewhat effective in regards to showcasing, different perspectives in the war that you normally wouldn't get out of a Battlefield game. So that's kind of really good in that regard. I mean, it's effective there. Ooh, yep, showing the conflict and how devastating the war is, because it's kind of intense. And I think we swap over somewhere else. And again, this is nice because it shows off a little bit of the scale of the game too, which is kind of cool. It's just sort of a brutal, intense game that really does not shy away from, the elements of warfare here. And I think maybe the war stories in the long run might be less memorable than the overall kind of campaigns that you experience in Battlefield games, but at the same time they're very interesting, if you know what I mean. Definitely unique entries. Am I getting grenaded? That's not good. But yeah, it's just really neat conflict, large-scale battles, so many different things, whether you're doing infantry battles, or you're in a tank, or you're in a plane. The very typical Battlefield stories that you're used to, and the styles of play that you might be familiar with, and what is going on there? It's just kind of interesting in how it's handled and how it's presented in the game. Who are we shooting here? Oh, all these guys. Okay, apparently people that have flamethrowers are invincible. So that's interesting. But yeah, you get neat weapons of the era, neat characters to battle with, and, different perspectives to see across the single-player component of the game. But I think with that, we're going to switch over to the multiplayer so that you can see that in action. Because while I love switching perspectives and seeing the conflicts of war, the multiplayer action is still the heart of the series, even years later, when you're trying to find players in the different matches, even though I think this one is where you get to go in the tank and everything like that, and go which again looks visually just absolutely stunning. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, and a little bit of destruction here, I guess. Blowing things up so we could show that. Yeah, kind of smoke clear, please. Yeah. Anyways, time for multiplayer. So this is the multiplayer component of the game. We're in the Grand Operations, which are large-scale battles. There are a few different modes in regards to how you interact with the game, and a great selection of maps that do look absolutely stunning, all of which can be, well, most of which can be experienced whether you're in the air, on foot, or in vehicles. And it's kind of epic, large-scale action that really does sort of provide some interesting choices. Oh jeez, my own grenade, that's not great. So you fit into different, classes and roles and different perspectives. I like to play as the medic in these games, but you can do, you know, whatever you want in regards to how you battle the assault and everything like that. It's kind of interesting, and it really was quite a change up for the series. I mean, we had Battlefield 4, which really provided large-scale conflict on console for the first time, and this really did sort of refine that in many ways by presenting larger, more intense, and even more visually impressive environments in a more historical setting. Well, entirely historical setting, am I right? Yeah, probably shouldn't throw a health pack down at the guy that's dead, but yeah, it's a very interesting game with a lot of unique weapons. Now, the historical accuracy of the Battlefield games, I guess I should have mentioned this for 5 too, but some of it's like so-so. But I mean, it does for the most part provide a pretty authentic experience with a good focus on co-op play. Because as you're seeing, while we are an individual character, we are in a squad. We can spawn off each other. And there's lots of different squads. Oh yes, the bayonet charge, that's fun. And then you're battling across these fairly expansive levels. Oh, that guy's shooting at us, that's not good. Oh, and it's a tank thing. Oh, that's not good either. Do I want to run towards the guy? Okay, let's try the charge. Oh, that didn't work out. Kind of funny thing to do. There's also, like, I think horses, which is kind of funny. It's very interesting. But I liked, you know, the style of play. I thought it was interesting. You know, tons of different maps and different sorts of experiences that you can have along the way, which is neat. I guess I'm kind of driving this thing. That's funny. But, you know, different vehicles you can unleash, different weapons, and tools, and things you can unlock, and just, you know, a lot of different gameplay experiences that you can have while you're working through this really gripping and intense entry in the series. Because I don't think, really, do we miss running over that guy? Because I don't think we're necessarily going to see one in this kind of particular era in a while. So it's neat to have, especially with the destruction and the breaking of the environments. It's kind of cool, at least I think so. You know, just in regards to what it does gameplay and mechanics wise, it's kind of interesting and neat. Yeah, it's definitely fairly large in scale, even for its time. I think it's a fairly impressive offering, and it holds up quite well. I'm very glad that it's, you know, when it released, or well after its release, that it did actually get a 1x enhancement so that we're able to enjoy the game to the full degree that we are currently, because I mean, it's always gonna, well, I mean, not always, but for a long time it should hold up as very visually impressive, just due to that having that dynamic scaling and things such like that. I think that's kind of really awesome to see. Just really neat sort of mechanics and styles of gameplay, because I mean, we were used to the modern Battlefield games, and this one kind of took us back, because I think there was a certain point in time where people were really sort of wanting a where did I get shot from? Did he shoot me from there? Jeez. People really were wanting a refresh in the Battlefield series, or in shooters in general, and we are finally starting to get that at this point. So I think that's kind of neat. And it was also, again, a theater of war you don't traditionally see a whole lot of action or games representing, which is kind of neat. Did we not get in there? What's going on here, guys? What are you doing? It's just like people are dying. I'm going somewhere else. I don't want to get stuck in this sort of weird battle situation. Ow. But yeah, neat large-scale 64-player games. Really, really quite action-packed. So many neat sort of ways to battle and experience things. It did provide countless hours of play, whether you were wanting to experience it alone or basically end up fighting with so many others in massive, huge battles. It's just kind of exciting and a nice build on the heritage of the series, doing something unique, something fresh, from a different perspective with some really, really cool maps. I don't really think this one is even much of a standout level, quite honestly. There's way cooler ones, but it's still kind of super impressive in terms of the scaling on this one. It feels big, it feels cool, it feels like it's full of chaos and the destruction of, like, you know, this war in particular. And I think that's kind of exciting. And it's just like a different selection of weapons too that you're able to use. I think that's kind of fun as well. Just, you know, it was very neat in how they changed the mechanics and the class balancing. because eventually they went even further, you know, with Battlefield 5 afterwards, and it'll be neat to see what they're doing with, you know, the next 2021 Battlefield, because I think that one's supposed to be really quite technically groundbreaking, so we'll have to see if that is the case. But yeah, for now, even jumping into this one, I'm still thoroughly impressed and blown away by what it has to offer. It's such a visual treat. I'm surprised it's still so popular too. I mean, there's so many different Battlefield options out there, right? It's a series that has continued to grow and change in different ways, but yet it's still got such an interestingly die-hard group of fans jumping into it, because it did not take long to get into like the ground operations. It didn't take long to get into matches, and I think that's semi-impressive in many ways. Now, this conflict's intense here, and I also really like the ground operations, because it's just like these large multi-tiered battlefields that keep going on and kind of leading into one another. But you do get your traditional, you know, kind of battling and conquesting and stuff like that. It's basically what you expect, but, you know, a little bit different each time. And I can't believe we've actually passed so many Battlefield games, just even over the course of the last generation. It's kind of miraculous to think that we've had so many and that the series has changed so much. To get this kind of, you know, conflict on a console is crazy. Like, look at the action going on here. These people roaming around, the destruction, the explosions, like, it's just absolutely nuts. And it looks amazing. Like, it really looks impressive. It's seriously just kind of insane, the scale here. Oh, Jesus, I'm rushing to revive somebody, whereas I'm getting blasted from the side. I'm alive! And this one still had the fun, kind of more cartoonish revival system in it that I absolutely love. Just kind of giving people the quick stab through and stuff. It's kind of funny. But yeah, the classes really do filter into the action here, and I suggest playing around with them if you've never played Battlefield before, because you never know what kind of sort of position you're going to fit into. Ooh, we can't go there. Oh, that's my bad. I thought it looked like a pretty cool spot, but, you know, you got to give the other team a little bit of a spawn area or a restricted area you're not supposed to go to in general for players, because you got to make the maps have some limitations. Oh, jeez. But it is so neat, and there's so many different roles that you can fit into. Not only in terms of the different classes, but if you're somebody that drives vehicles, you could do that. If you're somebody that flies planes, you have those options. And the planes in this one are kind of, I don't know, comical to a degree. I mean, they're not comical, but they're very much like the old-timey type planes you see in, like, animation type things, which I think is kind of funny. If you think of it from, like, a serious perspective, which I don't think they necessarily are thought of these days, you know, in retrospect, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, just like, look at the scale of this, the conflict, the different players, the battles going on. It's really quite impressive and just so intriguingly intense. But I think I should switch over to another map so I can show off just a little bit more in action here. So this is a different map, a little bit of a unique scenery. There is a few options in regards to the servers, even a little bit later at night at this point. And this is just regular conquest, taking the various positions on the map, sort of a classic, I guess you could say, Battlefield type mode. This one's really neat because it's just, again, a very straightforward desert battle. It's kind of epic. And it should maybe show off a bit more of the destruction too here, which is always exciting. Health packs for you. Oh yeah, you can put on the gas mask. It's kind of funny. They definitely had some interesting historical bits on this one, that's for sure. It's just like a completely different scenery from the lush green sort of landscape that we were fighting in last time, which is wild, because I mean, the like war conflicts definitely took place in lots of different spots. There's the battle horse. Oh, I got shot. The battle horses are absolutely hilarious. I remember going to E3 and like seeing this game for the first time, and then going back another year later, I think the year after, and they were doing the DLC, and you could do like, that was the Tazar? I think that was in this one. Sorry, there's been so many Battlefield games and stuff over the years, it's kind of funny. But yeah, just some absolutely gorgeous levels. I remember the horse stuff being just hilarious. Where, do we have any horses? I don't think we have any in the vicinity. But they're kind of just these fun creatures that you just roam around on really quickly. It's just such a different era in the Battlefield series, if you know what I mean, just in terms of the scale of the conflict and what's going on within it. It's just kind of nuts. Coming to save your life. Nope, I am way too late for that. Yeah, the different weapons, different types of conflict, the different secondary tools. I think we get like a sword too or something. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, just what you're, sort of how you're battling the different people you're facing off against. It just offered a unique style of conflict, right? Which is a nice refresher at the time, because we hadn't really seen something like this in quite a while. Somebody's on horseback. That's exciting. Yeah, just look at this large-scale like theater of war here. It's kind of crazy. I think this is actually one of the tighter maps too in terms of how you move through it. But I love that in the Battlefield series is they offer such variety, whether you're like, going through forests or in the snow or in the ash. Just a little bit of everything for you to move through and deal with, and of course to a degree destroy as well if that's your sort of thing. Ooh. Jeez, that did not work. Just so many different ways to play, and it was a neat entry in the series, and I hope this kind of gave you a look at what it kind of presented. I mean, visually, it probably won't get much better than this, I don't think, on the platform, but you never know, right? It's kind of a wild entry in the series, and hopefully it kind of gets remembered a little bit, because I remember this one being very, very unique for its time, and yeah, definitely having some fun little twists on the existing formula of the series and doing something a little bit fresh as we battle this guy. And again, just looking absolutely gorgeous. This is such a visually impressive game in terms of its scale and its visual direction. Very, very neat as we go on a bit of a killing spree here. I guess we'll see where that kind of takes us. Ooh. Battlefield 1.